everyone, it's Trisha Farron from William Ravis. Thank you for joining me for the next episode of Learn What to Expect. Today I'm going to be going through what you can expect at the closing. So congratulations, you have finally reached the point where you're almost a homeowner. Just a few more days and you get the keys. In preparation for getting those keys, there are still a few steps that need to be done. The lender has now provided all the documents that you've provided to them to the underwriting group, and they're going to review everything just to make sure that everything matches the way it's supposed to. During this time, you shouldn't have to give any more information because that should have all been done. It does take 3 days once the underwriter gives what's called a clear to close. This is the most beautiful phrase that anybody could hear because that means that all the requirements that you needed to fulfill have been done. But it does require a 3-day buffer so that you have an opportunity to get a review of all the information that the attorney is going to give you in preparation for closing. Also, during this 3-day period is a good time to set up your electricity, set up your internet or cable or phone. You also want to set up your accounts for your fuel. So if your house has oil or if you have gas, you'd want to find out from the seller who they used, but you're welcome to use whatever company you want. But it's a good idea to set up these accounts so that there's no interruption of service on the day of your closing. Also, during this 3-day period, usually the day before closing or even the morning of, you're going to get a settlement statement from your attorney. And what this statement is a listing of all the costs associated with purchasing the house. It will have a final number, and that number is what you need to bring with you on the day of the closing in the form of a bank check. A personal check will not work. You actually have to go to a bank and get a certified check. So be sure you bring that with you. Also on the day of the closing, and sometimes it happens the day before if your closing is early in the morning, you're going to set up a walkthrough with the agent. And what the walkthrough is an opportunity to go through the house now that the seller's personal belongings have now been moved out for you to make sure that there's nothing wrong with the house. You're looking for things like broken windows, holes in the wall, major scuff marks in the floor. Is there electricity? Does the water run? Is there anything damaged to the house? Was there a storm and maybe a tree hit the roof? Things like that maybe either happened as a result of nature, or it happened now that you can see that the house is empty and there was something you couldn't notice before. If you do see something like this, you make a list and submit it to the attorney. And in some very drastic cases, it does delay the closing. But if it's some minor things, then the attorneys can work it out, hopefully, and you can still close. You could expect to take about 15-20 minutes tops to do the walkthrough. So you want to schedule it to give you enough time to do that and drive over to your attorney's office. At the attorney, and now with COVID, everybody's doing things a little bit more carefully. You're basically he or she is going to go through all the documents with you, your loan papers and everything about purchasing this property. And you'll be signing a ton of papers. Some attorneys do it so that you're in a completely different area. I know at the height of COVID, you would be in your car, the attorney would be in his car, and on the phone, he would go through all the paperwork with you. You would sign it, you'd stick it in an envelope and leave it on the side, and he'd pick it up. He needs to file that paperwork, and there needs to be an authorization of wire transfers, and that happens with the bank. Sometimes the bank could be a little slow, so they like to not order any of the closings in the morning so that there's time to get that information together. So you also don't want to do it too late in the day in case your closing is delayed, something happened at the walkthrough, or some reason has just caused it to be a little bit later. You don't want to have to worry that the attorney's not able to do the filings that they need to file. Once all your paperwork is signed, you get the keys. There are some instances where you get the information, you've signed everything, but there's just a step that needs to be taken. So they may say, we're going to give you the keys and you're all set, but wait for us to call before you enter the property. Sometimes it's like a half an hour delay. But most times when you get the keys, congratulations, you're a new homeowner and you can go to the house, move your stuff in, and enjoy that property. So that's what you can expect about the closing. If you have any questions, don't forget to subscribe or reach out to me, and I'd be happy to walk through the closing steps with you or anything else about real estate. Thanks for joining me.